Emma Clark wiped the sweat from her forehead as she walked across the red desert. The twin suns of Kepler 442b burned hot above her, making the crystal formations around her sparkle like diamonds. She had been walking for 2 hours now, far from Research Station Horizon where she worked as a botanist. Her job was to study the strange plants that somehow grew in this harsh world, but today she had found something else entirely. Her scanner beeped loudly in her hand. The device showed unusual energy readings coming from somewhere below the ground. Emma had seen many strange things during her 6 months on this planet, but nothing like this. The readings were off the scale, pulsing with a rhythm that almost seemed alive. She was 22 years old and had dreamed of exploring alien worlds since childhood. Now that dream had brought her to this remote planet, millions of miles from Earth. Most days were routine, collecting samples and running tests. But today felt different. Today felt important. Emma followed the signal to a collapsed section of ancient ruins. The people who built these structures were long gone, dead for thousands of years. Nobody knew much about them except that they had been powerful and feared many things. The ruins dotted the entire planet, mostly buried and forgotten. She found an opening between 2 fallen pillars. Her training told her to report the find and wait for a proper team. But curiosity pulled at her like gravity. The energy readings were getting stronger. Something down there was calling to her, though she could not explain how she knew that. Emma checked her oxygen supply and clicked on her helmet light. The passage was narrow and dark, forcing her to squeeze through gaps between broken stones. The walls were covered in claw marks, deep gouges that ran along the crystal surface. Whatever made those marks had been huge, and the scratches looked old, worn down by time. The tunnel opened into a massive chamber that took her breath away. Her light could barely reach the ceiling, which stretched up into darkness like a cathedral, but it was what lay in the center of the chamber that made Emma freeze in place. A dragon. There was no other word for it. The creature was enormous, perhaps 50 meters from head to tail. Its scales shimmered between purple and dark blue, catching her light and reflecting it in strange patterns. Wings lay folded against its sides, pressed tight against ribs that showed too clearly through the skin. The dragon looked thin, starved, like something that had not eaten in a very long time. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She should run. Every instinct screamed at her to get away from this massive predator. But the dragon did not move to attack her. It barely moved at all. Its eyes opened slowly, glowing with a soft golden light that seemed tired and old. Then something impossible happened. A voice spoke inside Emma's head. Not with words exactly, but with feelings and images that her brain translated into language. The voice sounded rough and broken, like someone who had been screaming for days. Water. That single word carried with it a wave of desperate need that almost knocked Emma down. She felt the creature's thirst as if it were her own, a burning dryness that went beyond physical pain into something closer to torture. Emma took a step closer, her fear forgotten in the face of such suffering. She could see now that a barrier surrounded the dragon, a shimmer in the air like heat rising from hot pavement. The barrier glowed faintly with symbols she could not read. "What are you?" Emma whispered, though she knew the creature could hear her thoughts. More images flooded her mind. She saw this dragon flying through space itself, wings spread wide enough to block out stars. She saw others like it, a whole species of cosmic travelers who explored the universe not to conquer but to learn. The images carried names and concepts her mind struggled to understand. But one thing came through clearly. This dragon was called Vexthalan, and it had been trapped here for 700 years. 700 years. Emma could barely imagine such a span of time. The dragon had been imprisoned before humans had even left their solar system. It had suffered in this chamber while generations of people lived and died on Earth, never knowing it existed. "Who did this to you?" Emma asked. The answer came with images of another alien race, beings that looked like walking insects with too many eyes. They were called the Krelthi, and they had feared the dragons. Feared them so much that they built prisons on empty worlds and trapped the dragons inside barriers powered by the planet's own energy. The Krelthi were gone now, dead or scattered, but their prisons remained. Emma pulled out her scanner and examined the barrier. Her device showed that the energy field was incredibly strong, designed to keep the dragon in and everything else out. Nothing could pass through it, no food, no water, nothing. "How are you still alive?" Emma asked in wonder. Vexthalan's mental voice grew weaker. The dragon explained that its species could survive for very long periods without food or water, entering a kind of sleep to preserve energy. But 700 years had pushed that ability to its absolute limit. The dragon had woken and slept countless times, each waking period bringing more pain and desperation. It had felt itself dying slowly with no hope of escape or rescue. "Why did you call me?" Emma asked. The dragon's massive head lifted slightly, and Emma saw something in those glowing eyes that made her throat tight. Hope. Desperate. Fragile hope that could shatter at any moment. "I did not dare ask for freedom." Vexthalen's voice whispered in her mind. That seemed impossible. But water. Just one drink of water that was small enough to hope for. Small enough that perhaps a tiny creature like you could provide it. Emma looked down at the water bottle attached to her belt. It held maybe half a liter, barely enough to wet the dragon's mouth. But she understood now. After 700 years of suffering, Vexthalen had learned to hope only for the smallest things, for dreams that might actually come true. She unscrewed the cap of her bottle and approached the barrier. Her scanner showed that while the field was strong, small objects moving slowly could pass through if pushed hard enough. The barrier was designed to contain a massive dragon, not to stop something as small as a water bottle. Emma extended her arm toward the shimmering field. She felt resistance like pushing through thick honey. The barrier pushed back against her hand, but she kept pressing forward. Inch by inch, her arm sank into the shimmer. Vexthalen watched with an intensity that Emma could feel through their mental connection. The dragon was afraid to believe this was really happening, terrified that this was another hallucination born from centuries of isolation and thirst. Emma's hand broke through to the other side. She carefully set the water bottle on the stone floor inside the barrier and pulled her arm back out. The bottle sat there just a few feet from the dragon's enormous head. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Emma held her breath. Vexthalen stared at the bottle as if it might disappear if looked at too hard. Then, with movements that spoke of immense pain and weakness, the dragon reached out one massive claw. With surprising gentleness, Vexthalen tipped the bottle over, spilling the water onto the stone floor. The dragon lowered its great head to the puddle and began to drink. The dragon's long tongue touched the water, and Emma felt the moment through their mental connection. It hit her like a wave of pure feeling, the first moisture on dry tissue in 700 years. The sensation was so strong it brought tears to Emma's eyes even though she was not the one drinking. Vexthalen lapped at the tiny puddle with desperate care, not wanting to waste a single drop. The amount of water was nothing compared to the dragon's massive size. It would barely wet the creature's throat. But Emma watched as the dragon drank every last bit, tongue moving across the stone to catch even the smallest drops. When the water was gone, Vexthalen remained still with head bowed. Emma waited, unsure what to do or say. Then the dragon slowly raised its head and looked at her. Golden eyes met hers, and Emma saw something impossible running down the dragon's scaled face. Tears. The creature was crying. The tears were not like human tears. They glowed with an inner light and seemed to be made of liquid crystal. They rolled down Vexthalen's face and fell to the stone floor where they sparkled like tiny stars before fading away. "Thank you." The mental voice was so full of emotion that Emma had to sit down. Her legs suddenly felt too weak to hold her. 700 years I have waited. 700 years of dust and darkness and unending thirst. You are the first being to show me kindness in all that time. Emma wiped her own tears away. She had not expected to cry today. She had not expected any of this. "I am so sorry for what was done to you. It was wrong. All of it was wrong." Vexthalen's mind touched hers more gently now, and Emma felt the dragon sharing memories. She saw through the dragon's eyes as it flew through the emptiness of space. The stellar worms, as they called themselves, did not need ships. They could survive in the void between stars, their wings somehow pushing them forward through the nothing. She saw beautiful things. Nebulas that glowed with colors Earth had no names for, stars being born in clouds of gas and dust, planets covered in crystal forests or oceans of liquid metal. The stellar worms traveled everywhere, driven by curiosity and a desire to understand the universe. They were not conquerors or warriors. They were explorers and teachers. When they found younger species, they shared knowledge freely. They helped civilizations grow and learn. They asked nothing in return except the chance to study and understand. But not everyone welcomed them. The Krelthi had been a powerful species controlling hundreds of worlds. When they first saw the stellar worms, they saw only threats, creatures larger than their greatest ships, beings who could cross space without technology. The Krelthi feared being replaced, being made obsolete, so they built traps. They lured the stellar worms to empty worlds with false distress signals. When the dragons arrived to help, the Krelthi activated their prisons. Energy barriers powered by the planets themselves, impossible to break from inside or out. Emma saw Vexthalen's capture. The dragon had come to this world to answer what it thought was a call for help. Instead, the barrier had sprung up around it, trapping it in this chamber. Vexthalen had tried to break free, clawing at the walls and throwing itself against the barrier. But nothing worked. The prison had been built too well. "How many others are trapped like you?" Emma asked. "I can sense them, faint and distant. 12 others still live, though most have fallen into deep sleep to escape the pain. 2 have gone mad from isolation. They no longer think clearly. I stayed awake because I hoped that one day someone might find us. Someone might care." Emma stood up, decision hardening in her chest. "I am going to free you. Not just give you water. I am going to get you out of this prison." "No." The dragon's mental voice was firm despite its weakness. "The barrier is too strong. It is powered by technology far beyond what your people understand. Many have tried to shut down Krelthi installations across the galaxy. All have failed. You will only waste your time and perhaps bring danger to yourself." "I don't care," Emma said. She surprised herself with how certain she felt. "You have been trapped here for 700 years because someone decided you were too dangerous to be free. That is wrong. I am going to fix it." "Why?" Vexthalen asked. "You barely know me. You owe me nothing. Why would you risk so much for a creature you just met?" Emma thought about her answer. Finally she said, "Because you asked for water. Just water. After 700 years of hell, you asked for the smallest thing. You did not demand freedom or beg for rescue. You asked for something so simple that I could give it easily. That broke my heart. Anyone who has suffered that much and still asks for so little deserves everything I can do to help." The dragon was quiet for a long time. Then Vexthalen said softly, "You are a strange creature, Emma Clark. Your species is young and knows so little of the universe. Yet you have more wisdom than races that lived for millions of years. The Krelthi lived for 2 million years as a civilization. In all that time, they never learned what you seem to know naturally." "What is that?" Emma asked. "That kindness is not weakness. That mercy is not foolishness. That helping someone who cannot help you in return is not a waste but the highest calling of any intelligent being." Emma felt her face grow warm. She was not used to such praise, especially from a creature older than human civilization. "I should go back to the station," she said. "I need to figure out how to help you. But I will come back tomorrow with more water, as much as I can carry." "Be careful," Vexthalen warned. "If others learn of my existence, they may not share your compassion. Some will see me as a prize to be studied, others as a threat to be destroyed. Either way, I would lose my freedom again and you would be punished for helping me." "Then I will be careful," Emma promised. "I will find people I trust. People who will help us." She started to leave, but Vexthalen's voice stopped her. "Emma, before you go, I want you to know something. In all my long life, across all the worlds I have visited and all the beings I have met, I have rarely encountered someone as brave as you. Most would have run from me in fear. You stayed. You helped. You cared. That makes you extraordinary." Emma felt tears threatening again. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and made her way back through the tunnel. As she walked toward the research station in the fading light of the twin suns, her mind raced with plans. She needed help. She could not free the dragon alone. But who could she trust with something this important? Who would choose compassion over protocol? 3 names came to her mind. Maya Lopez, her best friend and colleague who studied alien life with genuine love rather than cold science. Jake Porter, the station's best engineer who always found ways to make impossible things work. And Commander Lisa Grant, the second in command who had joined the colonial service because she believed humanity could be better than it had been on Earth. Emma would talk to them tomorrow. She would show them what she had found and trust that they would see what she saw, a suffering being who deserved help, a chance to do something right in a universe that often seemed cold and cruel. As she entered the station, Emma looked back at the desert. Somewhere out there beneath the crystal and stone, a dragon waited in the darkness. But now that dragon had hope, real hope. Not just for water, but for freedom. Emma smiled. She had given Vexthalin a drink. Now she would give the dragon everything else. She would find a way. She had to. The stars came out above the research station, thousands of points of light in the dark sky. Each one was a sun with planets and peoples and stories. Somewhere among those stars, 12 more dragons waited in prisons, suffering as Vexthalin had suffered. Emma made a silent promise to all of them. If she could free one dragon, she could free them all. It would take time and effort and courage. But some things were worth any price. Some acts of kindness could change the universe. She went to her quarters and began making plans. Tomorrow would be the start of something important. Tomorrow would be the day she asked her friends to join a conspiracy of compassion. Tomorrow would be the beginning of the end of the dragon's long imprisonment. But tonight, Emma felt something she had not felt in a long time. She felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. Helping someone who needed help. Standing up for someone who could not stand for themselves. It felt right. It felt good. It felt like the start of something that would matter long after she was gone. Emma did not sleep well that night. Her mind kept showing her images of the dragon trapped in darkness, suffering for centuries while the universe moved on without it. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those glowing tears running down scaled cheeks. By morning, she had made her decision. She found Maya Lopez in the biology lab, studying samples under a microscope. Maya was 30 years old, with dark hair she kept in a practical bun, and eyes that always seemed to be smiling. She had been Emma's friend since they both arrived at the station 6 months ago. Maya, I need to talk to you about something. Something secret and important. Maya looked up from her work. She must have seen something serious in Emma's face because she immediately set down her tools. What is wrong? Nothing is wrong. But I found something yesterday. Something that will change everything if people find out. I need your help, but I need to know you will keep this secret until I say otherwise. Maya studied her for a moment. You know I trust you. Tell me. Emma told her everything. The energy readings, the ruins, the chamber, and most importantly, the dragon. She showed Maya the recordings from her helmet camera. Images of Vexthalin trapped behind the barrier. She explained about the water and the tears and the 700 years of imprisonment. Maya watched the recordings with growing wonder and horror. When Emma finished talking, Maya was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "We have to help it. We have to free it." Relief flooded through Emma. "You believe me? You are not going to tell me I am crazy?" "Emma, I became a xenobiologist because I believe the universe is full of amazing life. What you found is the most significant discovery in human history. A spacefaring species that has been around for millions of years, trapped and suffering because another species feared them. Of course we have to help. The question is how." "I was hoping you would say that," Emma said with a smile. "But we need more help. We need Jake Porter and Commander Grant." They found Jake in the maintenance bay working on one of the station's power generators. Jake was 28, tall and thin with hands that were always covered in grease. He could fix anything and often understood alien technology better than the scientists who studied it. When they told him about the dragon, Jake's first response was to grin. "You found a dragon? An actual dragon? That is the coolest thing I have heard in my entire life. When can I see it?" "So you will help us?" Emma asked. "Are you kidding? A chance to work on Krelthi technology and help a space dragon? I was born for this." Commander Lisa Grant was harder to convince. She was 45, with gray starting to show in her red hair. She had been in the colonial service for 20 years and knew what breaking rules could cost. When they approached her with their story, she listened in silence. "What you are describing is a violation of about 20 different protocols," Lisa said when they finished. "If the military or the corporations find out about this dragon, they will take over. The dragon will become a research subject at best. At worst, it will be seen as a threat and destroyed. And all of you will face serious charges for hiding it." "I know," Emma said, "but we cannot let that happen. Vexthalin has suffered for 700 years. We have a chance to help." "Does not that mean something?" Lisa leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. For a minute, nobody spoke. Then Lisa opened her eyes and nodded. "It means everything. That is why I joined the colonial service in the first place, to help humanity be better than it has been. If we cannot show mercy to a suffering being, then what is the point of exploring space at all? Count me in, but we do this smart and careful." So the conspiracy of kindness began. That is what Maya called it, and the name stuck. 4 people working in secret to free a dragon from a prison built by a dead civilization. Emma visited Vexithalan every day, bringing as much water as she could carry without raising suspicion. The dragon drank gratefully and grew slightly stronger with each visit. But more importantly, Vexithalan and Emma talked. The dragon shared knowledge about the universe, teaching Emma things that would take human science centuries to discover on their own. She learned about the way space curved around massive objects. She learned about worlds where time moved differently than it did on Earth. She learned about the songs that stars sang to each other, too low for human ears to hear but beautiful beyond description. Vexithalan was a lore keeper, a dragon whose job was to remember and preserve knowledge. 700 years of imprisonment meant 700 years of wisdom that could not be passed on. Meanwhile, Jake worked on understanding the barrier technology. He built a portable scanner that could analyze the energy field in detail without triggering any alarms. What he found was both encouraging and terrifying. The barrier is like a net made of energy threads, Jake explained to the group during one of their secret meetings. The threads are woven together and connected to a central control node buried deep underground. If we can reach that node and hit it with the right frequency, we can unravel the whole thing. How deep is the node? Lisa asked. About 30 meters straight down through solid rock. Maya whistled. That is a lot of drilling. We cannot do that without people noticing. No, we cannot, Lisa agreed. Which means we need to make it official. We stage it as a geological survey. I can approve it using my authority. We say we are looking for rare mineral deposits. It will not be a complete lie, just not the whole truth. That is a huge risk, Emma said. If anyone looks too closely at the paperwork, they will see something is off. I know, Lisa said, but it is the only way. We cannot sneak around with drilling equipment. We have to hide in plain sight. They spent 2 weeks preparing. Lisa falsified enough documents to make the geological survey look legitimate. Maya created fake mineral readings to justify the drilling location. Jake assembled the equipment they would need. Emma kept visiting the dragon, preparing Vexithalan for what was coming. The dragon grew more anxious as the day approached. If you fail, you will all be punished, Vexithalan said during one visit. Please, Emma, I beg you to stop this. I can survive. I have survived for 700 years. Do not throw away your futures for me. We are not stopping, Emma said firmly. You have suffered long enough. Either we free you or we fail trying, but we are not giving up. Why? The dragon asked, not for the first time. Why do this for me? Emma thought about her answer. She had been asked this question many times now, by her friends and by Vexithalan. Each time she gave a slightly different response, but the core truth remained the same. Because you matter, Emma said simply. You are a person even if you do not look like a human person. You think and feel and remember. You have suffered more than anyone should suffer, and we have the power to help you. That makes it our responsibility to try. The drilling operation began on a clear morning. Jake set up the equipment while Lisa supervised, making everything look official and routine. Other station personnel walked by occasionally, but nobody questioned what they were doing. It was just another day of research work on a planet full of mysteries. Emma stayed near the drill site monitoring the progress on a tablet. Below ground, they were slowly cutting through rock to reach the control node. It was delicate work. If they drilled too fast or hit the wrong spot, they might damage the node or trigger defensive systems. Days passed. The drilling continued slowly but steadily. Emma visited Vexithalan each evening, reporting on their progress. The dragon listened but said little. Emma could feel the hope and fear warring inside Vexithalan's mind. Hope that freedom might really come. Fear that something would go wrong at the last moment. On the 38th day, Jake called Emma over to the drill site. We are close, he said quietly. Maybe 3 more days. But Emma, I have to tell you something. When we hit that node and activate the disruptor, there is going to be a lot of seismic activity, energy release, maybe even some surface damage. People are going to notice. Can we control it? Emma asked. Not really. The barrier has been active for 700 years. Shutting it down is going to be like releasing a dam. The energy has to go somewhere. Emma thought about this. Then we make sure everyone is clear of the area when it happens. Tell them there is instability. Evacuate for safety reasons. That will raise questions, Lisa said, joining them. Let it raise questions, Emma replied. By the time anyone figures out what really happened, the dragon will be free. That is all that matters. On the 43rd day, they were ready. Lisa ordered an evacuation of the area around the drill site, citing dangerous geological instability. Most personnel were happy to comply. Nobody wanted to be near a potential collapse. Jake descended into the drill shaft with his equipment. Emma watched on monitors as he reached the control node, a crystalline structure that pulsed with blue light. In her mind, she felt Vexthalon tense with anticipation. "Here we go," Jake said over the radio, activating the harmonic disruptor in 3, 2, 1. He pressed a button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground began to shake. The monitors showed the node flashing rapidly, its light growing brighter and brighter. In the chamber far below, the barrier around Vexthalon started to flicker. Emma held her breath. This was it. 700 years of imprisonment about to end, or their whole plan about to fail spectacularly. Everything. For a long moment, Vexthalon did not move. The dragon lay in the chamber where it had been trapped for 700 years, wings still folded against its sides. Emma watched through the camera feed, worried. Had something gone wrong? Was the dragon hurt? Then Vexthalon lifted its head, slowly, as if testing whether this was real or another dream born of desperation. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter than Emma had ever seen them. Through their mental connection, she felt what the dragon felt: disbelief, wonder, joy so intense it was almost painful. The barrier was gone. After 7 centuries, the prison no longer existed. Vexthalon tried to stand. The first attempt failed. Muscles that had not moved properly in so long protested and cramped. The dragon collapsed back to the stone floor with a sound that made Emma wince. But Vexthalon tried again, and again. On the 4th try, the dragon managed to get its legs under itself and rise. "Take it slow," Emma said through their connection, even though she knew the dragon could not hear her words directly. "You have time now." All the time in the world. Vexthalon took a shaking step forward, then another. Movement that should have been graceful and powerful was clumsy and uncertain, but it was movement. The dragon was walking, crossing the invisible line where the barrier had been, entering space it had not been able to reach for longer than human civilization had existed. Emma and her friends watched on the monitors as the dragon made its way through the chamber and into the tunnels leading toward the surface. It took hours. Vexthalon had to rest frequently, strength failing after even small amounts of effort. But the dragon kept going, driven by a need Emma could feel burning through their connection. The need to see the sky, to feel wind, to breathe air that did not taste of prison and despair. They had evacuated the area around the cave entrance, so nobody was there when Vexthalon finally emerged into the open air of Kepler 442b. Emma and her friends waited at a safe distance, watching as the dragon stepped out into the fading light of the twin suns. Vexthalon stopped at the cave mouth and tilted its great head back. The dragon's eyes closed. Emma felt the sensation of wind touching scales for the first time in 700 years. The smell of the desert, the warmth of sunlight, simple things that most beings took for granted but which meant everything to someone who had lost them. The dragon stood there for several minutes, just breathing and feeling. Then Vexthalon opened its eyes and looked at the sky. The twin suns were setting, painting the clouds in shades of orange and pink and purple. It was beautiful, and the dragon had not seen beauty in so very long. Emma watched as Vexthalon's wings began to unfold. It was a slow process. The wings had been folded tight for centuries and resisted movement. The dragon worked patiently, extending first one wing and then the other, stretching membranes that glowed translucent in the dying light. When both wings were fully spread, they were magnificent. Nearly 80 meters from tip to tip, covered in scales that caught the light and threw it back in rainbow patterns. Emma heard Maya gasp beside her. Even having seen the dragon before, the sight of those wings was breathtaking. Vexthalon crouched down, muscles bunching beneath scaled skin. Emma realized what was about to happen and held her breath. The dragon was going to try to fly. With a leap that shook the ground, Vexthalon launched into the air. The first few wing beats were unsteady, uncoordinated. The dragon wobbled in the air, losing altitude. For a terrible moment, Emma thought Vexthalon was going to crash, but the dragon adjusted. Wings beat harder, finding rhythm and strength from somewhere deep inside. Vexthalon climbed higher, gaining altitude with each powerful stroke. Soon the dragon was circling above them, silhouetted against the colorful sunset sky. Through their connection, Emma felt the dragon's joy. It was pure and overwhelming, the happiness of a prisoner who had forgotten what freedom felt like. Vexthallen flew in wide circles, testing wings that had not been used in so long, relearning skills that had once been as natural as breathing. The flight was not graceful. The dragon swayed and dipped, sometimes losing altitude before recovering. But it was flight. Real flight. After 700 years of being trapped on the ground, Vexthallen was airborne again. Emma realized she was crying. So was Maya. Even Jake and Lisa had tears in their eyes. They had done it. Against all odds and at great risk, they had freed a suffering being. They had given the dragon back something that had been stolen away. Vexthallen flew for nearly an hour before exhaustion finally won. The dragon descended in a controlled glide, landing on the desert sand not far from where Emma and her friends waited. Vexthallen's sides heaved with effort, but the dragon's eyes glowed bright with satisfaction. Emma ran toward the dragon without thinking about danger. She just needed to be close to share this moment fully. Vexthallen lowered its great head as Emma approached, bringing one golden eye level with her face. "Thank you," the dragon's mental voice whispered. "Thank you for giving me back the sky." Emma reached out and placed both hands on the dragon's snout. The scales were warm under her palms. "You are welcome. You deserved freedom. You always deserved it." Jake brought supplies on a small transport vehicle. Water, lots of water, and synthetic proteins he had created based on scans of the dragon's biology. Vexthallen drank deeply, more water than Emma had been able to bring in all her previous visits combined. Then the dragon ate, tearing into the protein bars with obvious hunger. They sat together as night fell and the stars came out. Emma and her friends on the sand, Vexthallen lying nearby, finally resting in open air instead of a prison. The dragon pointed out constellations with mental images, showing them the real names of distant nebulas and galaxies. Vexthallen told them stories of worlds it had visited and peoples it had known, but their peace did not last long. Lisa's radio crackled with an urgent message. Emma listened as the color drained from Lisa's face. "What is wrong?" Emma asked. Lisa looked at them with worried eyes. "Research Station Horizon just received a transmission from the Colonial Authority. Someone reported unusual seismic activity and energy signatures consistent with Krelty technology being activated. A military science vessel is on its way to investigate. It will arrive in 4 days." The happiness of the moment evaporated like water in the desert. Reality crashed back down on them. They had freed the dragon, but now they had to deal with the consequences. "I will leave," Vexthallen said immediately through the mental connection Emma shared with it. "I will fly far away, hide in the wilderness where they cannot find me. You will tell them I escaped before you could stop me. You will not be punished for my freedom." "No," Emma said firmly. "We are not letting you run away. You just got free. You are still weak and recovering. You need food and care, not more suffering alone in the desert." "Then what do we do?" Maya asked. "If the military comes and finds the dragon, they will take it. Lock it up for study, and we will face charges for freeing it without authorization." Emma thought hard. There had to be a way. They had come too far and risked too much to lose everything now. Then an idea came to her. Crazy and dangerous, but possibly their only hope. "We control the narrative," Emma said. "We tell the story ourselves before anyone else can. We document everything, show the world what we found and why we did what we did. We present Vexthallen as a sapient being who was wrongfully imprisoned, not as a specimen or a threat. We make people see what we see." "That is a huge gamble," Lisa said. "It could just as easily make things worse. Turn us into criminals and the dragon into something people fear." "Maybe," Emma agreed. "But what choice do we have? If we hide and run, we look guilty. If we face this head-on with truth and evidence, we have a chance. People can be compassionate. They can care about suffering. We just have to show them why they should." Jake nodded slowly. "We have recordings. Video of the dragon in the prison. Evidence of the barrier. The history Vexthallen can share. If we present it right, we could change how people think about alien life." "It is risky," Maya said. "But Emma is right. Running or hiding does not help anyone. We stand together and we tell the truth." Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Finally she said, "All right. We do this the brave way. We prepare our case and we present it when the military arrives. We show them that compassion and ethics matter more than protocols and fear. Vexthalen's mental voice was full of emotion. You would risk everything for me again, even after you have already done so much? Emma looked at the dragon, at the magnificent creature who had suffered for centuries and still retained kindness and wisdom. Yes, because you matter. Because what happened to you was wrong. Because someone needs to stand up and say that mercy is more important than control. They had 4 days to prepare, 4 days to build their case and document everything, 4 days before the military arrived, and they would learn whether humanity was capable of choosing compassion over fear. Emma looked up at the stars, at the vast universe stretching away in all directions. Somewhere out there, 12 more dragons waited in prisons, suffering as Vexthalen had suffered. If they could win this fight, if they could make people care, then maybe they could free all of them. It was worth any risk. Some things were more important than safety or career. Some acts of kindness could change the universe. The military science vessel Valiant arrived exactly when it said it would. Emma watched from the observation deck as the ship descended through the atmosphere. A massive craft that made Research Station Horizon look tiny by comparison. Her stomach twisted with nervousness, but she stood straight and tried to look confident. Captain Nathan Cole led the investigation team. He was a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. With him came 2 Colonial Authority representatives, a team of xenobiologists, security personnel, and legal advisors. It was a lot of people, and they all looked very serious. Lisa had arranged for the meeting to take place in the station's main conference room. Emma and her friends were there, along with Vexthalen, who waited outside but connected through a telepathic relay device Jake had built. The dragon's thoughts could be projected to everyone in the room through a speaker system. Captain Cole sat at the head of the table and looked at each of them in turn. Let me be clear about why we are here. Someone activated ancient Krelthi technology without authorization. Someone freed what appears to be a massive alien creature from a containment field. And someone did all of this without reporting to proper authorities. Those are very serious violations. We know, Lisa said, and we take full responsibility for our actions. But we ask that you hear our full story before making any judgments. Cole nodded. That is why I am here. Proceed. Emma stood up. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice came out steady. She had practiced this for 4 days, going over every word with her friends. Now it was time. 7 weeks ago I found an ancient chamber in the desert ruins. Inside that chamber was a creature that had been trapped there for 700 years. This is Vexthalen, a stellar worm, a species that traveled between stars long before humans left Earth. She activated the display screen, showing video from her helmet camera. The footage showed the dragon in its prison, thin and weak, eyes dim with suffering. She showed the barrier, the evidence of the long imprisonment, everything. The Krelthi trapped Vexthalen and others like it because they feared them, not because the stellar worms had done anything wrong, but because they were powerful and different. The Krelthi built prisons on empty worlds and left these beings to suffer for centuries. One of the Colonial Authority representatives, a man named Gregory Hunt, interrupted. That is a sad story, but it does not excuse your actions. This creature could be dangerous. It could be a threat to human colonies. You had no right to free it without proper evaluation and containment protocols. Emma felt anger flash through her, but she kept her voice calm. Vexthalen is not an it. The dragon is a person. A thinking, feeling being with intelligence that far exceeds our own. Would you trap a human in a cage for 700 years, just because they might be dangerous? Humans are not 50-meter alien creatures with the ability to fly through space, Hunt replied. No, Emma agreed. Most humans are far more dangerous. We have destroyed entire ecosystems. We have driven species to extinction. We have fought wars that killed millions, yet we claim rights and freedoms for ourselves. Why should Vexthalen have less just because of what species it was born into? Dr. Patricia Kim, the lead xenobiologist, leaned forward with interest. May I ask the creature directly? Can it communicate with us? Yes, Emma said. She activated the telepathic relay. Vexthalen, can you share your thoughts with everyone here? The dragon's mental voice filled the room through the speakers, translated into words that everyone could understand. I greet you, humans of the Colonial Authority. I am Vexthalen, lore keeper of the stellar worms. I mean you no harm. I seek only to live in peace and to help others of my kind who still suffer in prisons across the galaxy. Several people in the room shifted uncomfortably. Hearing an alien speak directly into your mind, even through technology, was unsettling. But Dr. Kim looked fascinated. How do we know you are telling the truth? Hunt asked. You could be deceiving us. I could show you my memories, Vexthalin offered. Through direct mental connection, you could see and feel what I have experienced. You would know if I speak truly. Hunt looked uncertain. That seems risky. I will do it, Dr. Kim said. If this being is willing to open its mind to me, I am willing to accept the connection. Emma helped set up the direct link between Dr. Kim and Vexithalin. The xenobiologist closed her eyes as the connection formed. For several minutes, she sat motionless while the rest of the room waited in tense silence. When Dr. Kim finally opened her eyes, they were wet with tears. 700 years, she whispered. 700 years of isolation and suffering. Alone in darkness, slowly dying of thirst with no hope of rescue. I felt it, all of it. No being should endure that. She turned to Hunt and Captain Cole. This creature, this person, has experienced more pain than we can imagine, and yet there is no malice in its thoughts. No desire for revenge against those who imprisoned it. Only a wish to be free and to help others. If we imprison it again, if we treat it as a specimen rather than a person, we are no better than the Krelthi. Hunt looked uncomfortable, but not convinced. Even if we accept that it is sentient and peaceful, we have protocols. Procedures for first contact situations. These people violated those protocols. The protocols are designed for situations where we have time to study and evaluate, Lisa said. Vexthalin was dying, suffering immensely. Waiting for proper authorization would have meant more days or weeks of torture for a being that had already endured centuries. We made a choice to prioritize mercy over procedure. Captain Cole had been silent through most of this, watching and listening. Now he spoke. These are difficult questions. Questions about rights and ethics and what we owe to beings different from ourselves. I need time to consider this and to consult with higher authorities. He stood up. We will continue this discussion tomorrow. In the meantime, the dragon will remain free but monitored. You four will remain on the station. Nobody leaves until we reach a decision. The waiting was hard. Emma spent the evening with Vexthalin, sitting beside the dragon under the stars. What do you think they will decide? She asked. I do not know, Vexthalin replied. Your species is young and still learning. Some of you choose compassion. Others choose fear. Which voice wins depends on many things. If they try to lock you up again, Emma said quietly, I will not let them. I will help you escape. I will do whatever it takes. The dragon's mental voice was gentle. I know you would. That is why I have hope, because beings like you exist in the universe. Beings who care more about doing right than about being safe. The next morning, Captain Cole called them back to the conference room. Emma could not read his expression. Her heart pounded as everyone took their seats. I have spoken with the Colonial Council and reviewed all the evidence, Cole began. This situation is unprecedented. We have never encountered anything quite like it before. But after much consideration, we have reached a decision. He looked at Emma and her friends. Your actions violated numerous protocols and regulations. You took risks that could have had serious consequences. You made decisions that were not yours to make. Emma's heart sank. They had failed. After everything, they were going to lose. But Cole continued. However, given the extraordinary circumstances, I am recommending leniency. You will face formal hearings regarding your actions. But I will argue that your motivations were ethical and your judgment, while unorthodox, was sound. You saved a sentient being from ongoing torture. That matters. He turned to the screen showing Vexthalin outside. As for you, Vexthalin of the Stellar Worms, you are hereby classified as a protected sapient entity under interstellar law. You are granted autonomy and rights equivalent to any other sentient species. You are free. Emma felt tears of relief spilling down her cheeks. Maya grabbed her hand and squeezed. Jake let out a breath he had been holding. Lisa nodded with satisfaction. There are conditions, Cole added. You must undergo medical evaluation to ensure your health. You must work with our authorities to locate and potentially free other imprisoned stellar worms, but in a controlled manner that ensures safety. And you must share information about the Krelthi technology and other knowledge that could benefit humanity's understanding of the galaxy. I accept all conditions gladly, Vexthalin said. I wish only to help and to end the suffering of my kin. Dr. Kim smiled. Then we have much work to do together. Welcome to freedom, Vexthalin. Truly this time. The months that followed were busy. Research Station Horizon became a center for human-stellar worm relations. Vexthalin recovered strength daily under proper care. The dragon proved to be a patient teacher, sharing knowledge freely with anyone willing to learn. Emma continued as the dragon's primary liaison. Their friendship deepened into something rare and precious, a bond that crossed the vast gulf between species. They spent hours talking about everything from physics to philosophy, to the nature of consciousness itself. Using Vexthalin's ability to sense others of its kind, they began locating the remaining imprisoned stellar worms. The Colonial Authority committed resources to a liberation effort. It would take years, but they would free them all. On the one-year anniversary of Vexthalin's freedom, Emma stood with